So we've heard from a very experienced pilot here, one who started out in 1964, and we thought it'd be interesting to have a contrast here and hear from one of our newest pilot owners here, Sam Warren. And Sam is going to tell us all about his Cessna 182 Warbird, and I've asked him to come and share with us a little bit of the mindset and the lessons learned and the viewpoint here of somebody who's just getting into this and some of the things he's learned. So, Sam, take it away.
I'll hold on to this because I don't like to stand in one place. Okay, 20 minutes starting now. You're mine. Let's see. Flying, pilot's license, buying an airplane, doing just about anything. It's fear-based. This story is about fear and overcoming. Flying and being a part of this community is hugely rewarding for me. I've been able to do things and be a part of things that never could imagine doing. And if I don't get emotional, I'll be doing great. All of this is possible because of my wife, Mary. She's not here today. She had some other things she had to do, and she wasn't feeling well as well. But without her, I wouldn't be able to do. I wouldn't have done much wouldn't have been able to do as much as I have done. She takes things. She listens to my dreams. She listens to my stories. She listens to all of my talk about aircraft, and I'll be willing to settle for something way down here, and she'll go, no, it's up here. So my initial dream for an airplane was a 1959 Cessna 182B model with my list of requirements were recent paint job, new engine prop with low to mid time, fresh interior, and an updated panel. Maybe not latest and greatest, but fairly recent. And free. That was the key thing, free. Trust me, there's a lot of people selling airplanes out there that got phone calls from me as, what can we do to make this work? And anyway, I hit all but the last one with Gloria, November 2405 Gulf, and she's a dream. We had a really quick learning process. I bought her out of South Carolina. It's called the guy up. My wife, I showed her the plane. I said, this meets all the requirements, darling. She goes, yeah, you're right. Looks pretty good. She goes, and it was like a week later, I was looking back at the airplanes again, and I showed it to her again, and she goes, you should call him. What? I just said that it's a nice airplane. She goes, yeah, you showed that to me a week ago. You should call them. Okay, now if I call them, I'm buying an airplane because I'm not calling them and not. And she said, you should call. I'm dialing the number. She said, good. So the phone rings. Hank answers the phone. We're on the phone for 15 minutes. I've asked him several key questions. One about the horizontal stabilizer. It has a jack screw in it. And if that's not right, that horizontal stabilizer will wobble. But that's one of the key things I love about that airplane, not to mention the straight tail. The difference between that horizontal stabilizer and any other Cessna out there is that everyone has a trim tab, and that horizontal stabilizer on my airplane adjusts the whole horizontal stabilizer, increasing your airspeed and reducing the drag. Hank answers the phone. I ask him about that. We talk about a few other things, and I start into the conversation about price. He says, well, let me stop you right there. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to go good. It's your airplane if you want it. At that point, I'm going, I'm about to buy an airplane. So overcoming fear. I said, I guess you sold a plane. He goes, good, because you're the only one that's asked any halfway intelligent questions about it. And so I said, I better get off the phone now because I've said all the intelligent things I can say at this point. And I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to hear me screaming as soon as I hang up. Because one of the greatest things in my life would be to have a pilot's license. I got that. Then all I needed was the plane. I got that. I got a great wife. I got a great home. I got a great job. I have made it. Life is grand. Anyone asks me how you doing, it's fabulous. It's how could you be any different? Someone asked me one time, you're going flying? Where are you going? I said, up. Anyone ask me where I'm going when I go flying? It's up. We'll adjust the mission accordingly. One of my friends at work said, hey, how low can you fly? I said, right up to impact. He goes, no, how low can you cruise at? Well, you're allowed to stay above 1,000 feet at least in most cases because there's a lot of garbage down there, kids flying kites and other things. And now there's more things with the UAVs. But anyway, we got the plane for $62,000. They flew it to Jinx, Oklahoma, where I picked it up. John Counsel's going to meet me there. But his schedule didn't work. John Counsel was going to meet me in Glendale and help me fly it to Washington. His schedule didn't match mine. So talk about fear. I'd like to back up for a second on my list because everything I just said was not a part of my speech. So I'm going to go to my notes here real quick because there's some things here I really wanted to talk about. Now this requires a show of hands. How many of you had an airport close immediately after your departure? Okay, one. Don't put your hands down. I want to see how many I get. Lost an engine. Okay. Yep. Complete and utter electrical failure. And nearly crash on your first landing. I love you, man. I picked up my plane with 97 hours. The worst communication. It's a push to button in my plane, not a push to talk. The tower guys here are going, November 2405 Golf, please just cross the runway. Stop talking on the radio. Yeah, I'm going to do that. So, this is just great. And talking to you guys, flying jets and doing the things you've done. I mean, I started this journey to get my plane at 97 hours. I now have over 205, and I've only had the plane. I picked the plane up March 2nd of last year. So renting, you don't get to fly if you don't have a plane. So I'm going to come back to those stories to hold you captive. And I want you to know that when you guys talk about incidents and accidents and things that go on with you, I listen. And during those events, voices shouted loudly in my head what to do, what to keep doing, what not to do, what do I do next? How do I do my crew resources? So remember, we're listening. And now I'm starting to shake. With my plane, I've had the opportunity to fly a World War II vet down to Olympia with Dave Desmond in the back. Wow. His name just went right out of my... Art. Unreal. I flew a Korean vet around the patch at Harvey Field. That was pretty exciting. I was going to lunch, needed to get to work, but I needed to eat first. There's this old guy sitting there with his Korean veteran's hat on. I walked up, struck up a conversation, asked him if he wanted to go for a flight. And he says, well, I don't know. Never done that before. I said, well, you think about it. I'm going to eat my lunch, and then when I go to leave, you let me know if you would like to go. He said, okay. When I came back over after lunch, I said, so what's the verdict? He said, well, I was thinking I'd like to do that. And the lady sitting there, his caretaker, said, you're going to be 92 years old next week. And I turned to her, and I sometimes I respond, and sometimes I bark. And she made me mad because it's fear-based, right? You don't do something because you're afraid of it. You don't do something because something might happen. Okay? So I barked. I go, what the hell does him being 92 next week got to do with going for an airplane ride? He ain't going to take flying lessons. He isn't flying the plane. He ain't going to be landing the plane. He's just going for a ride around the patch for 5 minutes. Maybe that.
Did she volunteer to go, right?
No, the old timer sitting there in the chair, going to be 92 next week, and I'm sorry, I didn't remember his name. I didn't get a picture. He barks a laugh, you know, that one of those ones that come from deep inside. It's like, about time to hear someone bark at somebody like that, you know? And he tells me about his Korean War experience. Getting shot at, freezing half to death. I take him flying, make the turn, noise abatement, get it within ground effect real quick on the Harvey because it's a short field, get it up to about 105, pull the nose up, and do it. Do a swoop climb. Yeah. So I'm using the wrong word, I'm sure of it, because it just lost it. No, I just climbing straight up as fast as I can. Climbing up as fast as I can in the 182, and then I get to 700 feet and I level it off. You know, a little bit of positive, a little bit of negative. Nothing like you've ever experienced. And I heard him kind of gasp when we leveled off. And I was like, oh, better ease up a little bit. So we keep climbing up, we come around, we land. Once again, I'm always too high, too fast, and too close. So I side slip it, throw in 40-degree flaps, and drop her down, and then level off and touch down and taxi over. I mean, we were just quick. I was running late for work at this point. And we get out. I go, what did you think? He goes, I was scared to death. I go, you've been shot at, nearly frozen to death, and you were afraid of an airplane ride? He goes, I just never done that before. I didn't know what to expect. And I said, well, I hope you give me a call. And I gave him my number. So you don't get to do that in a rental. Took my father flying. My father was extremely afraid for me flying my own plane. He said to me, what inspired you to do this? I said, Dad, you did. I said, you didn't get your pilot's license. I had to do it. You didn't get your plane that you talked about. I had to do it. I said, you inspired me. So know that if you don't accomplish something, maybe you're inspiring someone to accomplish something. Be a good example. My dad said, I wish I wouldn't inspire you so much. I love him for that. I absconded with 2/3 of the sheriffs at Packwood. Took them flying. We were turning and burning 100 feet off the water, so I'm ready to be your wingman and go back in. I got your back, brother. We'll be going back to Packwood, Gloria and I, to see if that one sheriff said, this is fun. And I told him, you know the best part about this? He goes, what's that? I said, we're doing 120 miles an hour and we're turning corners like nobody's business and you can't pull me over. I got the opportunity to buzz a funeral of a gentleman that was in our squadron, or in our group, whichever you want to call it. I was informed that there was not going to be a flyby, and that was not acceptable. I knew the time, I knew the place, and I knew the way. From reports, I had calculated my arrival time impeccably, as if I were a flight set to a mission. We flew in, Mary and I, at about 2,000 feet. And our timing was right on the hour. I pulled the throttle back, nosed her over, aimed straight at the funeral. And at about 500 feet, I pulled the nose up hard and firewalled the throttle and roared right as the minister started to speak. So we gave him a send-off and let him know he was loved. We had a dear friend, Dawn Nance, who passed away of cancer shortly after I got my plane, and every flight I made, I flew over her house, throttled the engine. She said it was one of the greatest things she wrote in my logbook, and that's one thing I like about paper over electronic, is that I have this, not an electronic device. It helped her remember when her sister flew with her in the 50s. And pretty important to her. I flew my niece Emmy in Arizona when I was there, when we flew from Jinx to Glendale, because I couldn't fly here because March, we were still having snow in 2017. And Emmy got in the plane, and I started pre-flight in the plane, and right away she grabbed the yoke. Okay, that's not good. But you go ahead and hold on to it for right now. I'm not going to say anything. So I get everything pre-flighted, get everything ready to start. I said, Emmy, I need you to do me a favor. She goes, yes, Uncle Sammy. She's all excited. I said, I need you to sit on your hands. I need you to put your hands under your legs, and I want you to keep them there unless I tell you you can't take them out. She goes, okay, Uncle Sammy. I said, I can't have you touching that yoke. It's really important. I need you to pay attention. You hear me? She goes, yes, Uncle Sammy. I can't touch the yoke. I said, all right. We start to move forward. Her hands came out within inches of the yoke, and they went right back under her legs. And I said, Emmy. She goes, yes, Uncle Sammy. I said, that was awesome. Thank you. So we taxi down to the end of the runway. We're facing into the traffic pattern. And never had this happen before because I only had the plane for a couple of days. And the elevator is being buffeted by the wind behind us. And it's going up and down. So yoke's coming in and out. And so I pull the yoke back. And I'm having trouble doing everything I need to do for the run-up. I said, Emmy, can you do me a favor? And she goes, yes, Uncle Sam. I said, could you hold that yoke? White knuckles. Tongue is out. And she has got that yoke. It is not going away. Her life depends on holding that yoke. You don't get that in a rental. She holds that yoke. And I don't have the heart to tell her, Emmy, just kind of hold it gently. I said, nope, she's got a mission. I ain't going to take that mission away from her. We got her up flying, went around the pattern. I'm running out of time, by the way. We're flying in the pattern. On the downwind, I said, okay, Emmy, you can hold the yoke. So she's got both hands on the yoke. I said, now don't pull it or push it too much. You can go ahead and move it a little bit. She flew the plane a little bit. I said, okay, now we're going to start landing. You go ahead and maintain holding on to it, but let me turn it. She said, okay. So we land, touch and go. We're climbing back out on the downwind. I said, okay, you've got the plane. So she's holding the yoke, but now she's no longer using both hands. She just has the one hand on it. I was like, yeah, that's right. So we get to the restaurant that evening. I said, Emmy, I noticed when we were flying, you started out with two hands. And I said, what happened there? Why'd you start using one? Well, Uncle Sammy, you didn't use two hands. You only used one. I wanted to be like you. I was like, yeah, I've got it. Her name is Amelia. Her uncle's going to help her with that. So For a lot of you that fly these planes and do wonderful things, be sure you know that we're watching, we're learning, no matter how old we are. Now I'm out of time. Should I stop, or I have a little bit more?
Let me ask you a question here.
Sure.
So, if somebody's sitting out here right now, always wanted to buy an airplane, but they're scared to, two things. One, what would you tell them? And two, what one piece of advice would you give them about doing it?
Number one, define your mission. What is the majority of your flying going to be? You're going to have 1, 2, 4, 6 people in your plane. If the majority of your plane flying is going to just be you, get a single seater. Get it fuel efficient and fast. If you're wanting to do backcountry, well, you know the backcountry little airplanes. Just define your mission, you'll find your plane. That'll dictate what you get. I used Aerospace Reports and J.C. Becker Aviation as for the law firm. And I used Bill White Insurance. I used Jeff Snowden with the Aerospace Reports, and that got me all the information on my plane. My plane's been beat up, tore up, and rebuilt. Restored in 2006 and 2007. What was the second question?
What you'd say to them about doing it?
You can't afford it. But here's the other thing. I can't afford it, but I cannot afford not to have a plane. My wife will say, go fly. Please go fly. My wife will say, we need to go to the hangar. We have work to do at the hangar. I was on the way home the other night. I wanted to be home with her, but I wanted to go do some stuff at the hangar because I'm getting ready to do my annual, and I bought a new spark plug cleaning kit. I got a workbench to build for it and whatnot. And she said, you need to stop by the hangar. I go, but I don't you need me at home? She goes, no, you go to the hangar. I get off work at 10:30 at night. It isn't convenient. If you're going to buy a plane, some of the considerations you need to think about are the amount of that aircraft out in production. I think on the 182, there's like 15,000 of them out there. Parts are available. So that's a huge consideration. When it comes to your inspection, your pre-buy, which I did to a minimal amount, because I didn't have a lot of money to spend, and a few things were missed, and I'll cover those real quickly after this. Get a good, thorough inspection done by a very good, knowledgeable mechanic. There's some simple things that should have been caught on my plane that were not. Thank goodness they were low impact on my wallet. P-leads were not properly grounded when I got it home. They were tie wrapped to the panel behind the firewall. Fuel cell was from February of 1959. The manufacture date of my airplane is January 6, 1959, so a restored cell was put in the plane and was coming apart. I had to replace that. Nose gear was fully collapsed so that the shimmy would not be there when you flew it, which I have all the parts now in place to completely rebuild the nose gear. Other than that, I have really easy fixes. I have a few other things I want to do. Wing X extension, sportsman stole kit, Atlee Dodge rear seat, extended baggage, move the battery to the firewall, get rid of all of the standard lights and put in LED lights. When I do the sportsman stole kit, add the landing lights on the right wing as well, everything be LED. So then I'll put in the, I can't think of the name of it, where the lights alternate for collision avoidance. Yeah. So those are some of the mods I plan on doing eventually. Any questions? I mean, I have a whole thing of that first leg was pretty intense.
Sam, I got one comment for you.
Okay, sir.
The 14th is Valentine's Day.
Yes.
You better do it.
Do what?
Yeah, okay. That wife of yours, you better be doing some good Valentine's Day stuff.
At our house, it's her Valentine's Day every day. Let me tell you, she's amazing. We do remodel jobs and we do all our own work around the house, and she'd rather go buy tools than buy clothes or makeup and whatnot. So
Definitely a keeper.
yeah. I'm well invested. So the rest of those stories, I guess we can talk about. If you have a question, feel free to ask. I'll give you my most honest, deadpan answer.
How much you paying for insurance?
My
Says
insurance.
you only had 97.
Well, my initial insurance was just over $1,200, and I made sure that it said that any person with a pilot's license could fly my plane, because I planned on loaning it out to friends and whatnot that I have. But the new insurance that I got is $760 annually and requires 300 hours in type now.
Does that include home insurance?
It's everything. It's everything. So 300 in type pretty much eliminates a lot of people from operating my aircraft. John Council is my advanced trainer. We've got a lot of work to do before May. Mary and I have a 40-hour trip planned in May. We're going to fly down to Glendale, Arizona and back up again, but we're going to go via Oregon, California, Windsor, California. We're going to fly through the Yosemite, see if they're awake. Not quite as loud as an F4. And we're going to stay the night at Bishop, I think the name of the town is, right before Death Valley. We're going to fly the entire length of Death Valley. We hope to land at the Furnace, the lowest elevation airport in the United States. Then we'll continue on to down into Glendale, where we'll stay a few days, head up to Grand Canyon, then fly the lake up to Page, and then from Page we'll go into Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs, we're going to spend some time with my wife's daughter and grandkids, and then from there, while we're there, we're going to strip the airplane of everything, and we're going to fly up to Leadville, the highest elevation airport in the United States, 9,935 feet. That is a huge bucket list for me, hitting the lowest and the highest on the same trip. Then from there, we plan on going to Yellowstone, spending at least 2 days there, flying around Yellowstone, and then work our way home from there. So we'll be gone about 14 days.
So next year, we're gonna have a report on how that went?
You can have a report right after we get back. Oh, that's the other thing Mary has required of us, is to get our living will or get our will and testament done. And we're talking about what we do with the truck and what we do with the house and oh yeah, who's gonna get the plane? I said, babe, you know, if we go together, most likely we're in the plane, and I don't think anyone's going to want it when we're done with it. She went, oh yeah, what was I thinking? So we're going into this with knowing that there are hazards, as with anything. And once again, it's back to fear. Are you going to let fear stop you from doing something? Sort of like when you got invited to fly the MiG. All right. Sure, I guess. It was flying here today. Flying here today was extremely scary for me. I don't fly into towered airports. I mean, Payne Field, but that doesn't count.
They know.
There's not a lot of big aircraft activity going on there. And I'm coming in here, I called Seattle Approach, and the lady said, I have you at 5,500 feet. And I go, yes, ma'am, that's correct. And, 2405 Golf, yes, currently at 5,500 feet. She goes, I need you to descend to 2,500 feet. So I started a nice 500-foot descent. And a few minutes later, she comes back. November 2405 Golf, you're about to break Class B airspace. Please aggressively descend to 2,500 feet now. Yes, ma'am. So I was a little nervous coming in, and then as I approached, I got a hold of the tower, November 2405 Golf. Inbound, unfamiliar, low-time pilot. Because I am a low-time pilot. Well, when I flew into Glendale, I was pretty nervous. Almost the exact same scenario went on with the Glendale tower. As I was flying in there, and the tower gets on, and I was like, November 2405 Golf, new pilot, new plane, unfamiliar. I've got a trifecta account going on. And so, the guy had like an Indian accent. And it was beautiful because it calmed me down like nobody's business. Do you see the very big building out in front of me? Oh, yes, I do. Let me know when you are there. So I get there and he goes, do you see the Piper out in front of you? Follow him in. And I go, got it. And then I wondered where the hell this Piper guy was flying to, because the airport's way back over there. We're 3-4 miles out. I could have landed, taxied, and put the plane away by the time I got there. I roll in and do my landings. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing it wrong or something. I guess I'm not flying a 777. Any other questions? Sorry, I digressed. All right. Well, you folks, thank you for your time. Thank you for listening.